let's be optimistic for a moment, and let's assume that the House and Senate can get a continuing resolution, a temporary funding measure passed in September. If passed as prologue, that probably kicks the spending debate to December. Christmas is always a good forcing event for members of Congress to get their work done. And I'm real curious to, if we're waiting that long to get spending bills across the line, it means we've probably delayed on a lot of other things too. As Bob was talking offline, they've got several authorization bills that have to get passed this year: the Farm Bill, National Defense Reauthorization Bill. But there's also some tax policy that's been hanging out there. Every year there's some, little straggling tax, business tax extenders, et cetera, but there's some other potential bigger tax items for the end of this year. I was wondering if there was any tax policy that you think might have legs at the end of this year that goes into sort of a kitchen sink, throw all the 12 appropriation bills in there and throw all these authorization bills in there. And, oh yeah, let's throw a tax title in there as well. Are there any tax policy measures that you see having legs for this year?
Well, I mean, potentially, but it's pretty tough right now. I mean, you saw the House Ways and Means Committee did pass a tax bill in June with only Republican votes that gave a temporary boost to the standard deduction and some immediate R&D expensing for businesses. But they paid for that mostly by repealing all of the clean energy tax credits the Democrats had passed last year. So there's no way that bill is going to go nowhere, because, the Democrats will certainly oppose that. And I'm not even sure it gets passed with only Republican votes on the House floor, Tori, because there's a good band of these Republicans from high tax states, think California, New York, New Jersey, who are really adamant that they want to repeal this limit that was set on state and local tax deductions, what's called the SALT deduction for people who are familiar. Folks might remember back during the Trump tax cuts of 2017, to keep that price tag down a little, they imposed a $10,000 limit on how much you can deduct on your federal returns for state and local taxes. There's a big effort in these high tax states to lift that limit. And I think they think there's like 6 to 10 Republicans that have vowed that they will oppose any tax package if it doesn't lift that SALT limit. So what does that do? They can't pass that package that way. I mean, and there's a good number of Republicans who don't like lifting that limit. So that alone could sink this tax package. There is bipartisan support for some kind of full expensing for the R&D, but Democrats want to package that with an expanded child tax credit, which I think most Republicans are leery of. It's the expanded child tax credit that we had during the pandemic, right, that was temporary, that Democrats would like to bring back. It's much more generous than the current credit. So you could envision some sort of bipartisan compromise at the end of the year, I think, that would package the R&D credit for businesses with an expanded child tax credit. Problem is, it's not cheap. Mm-hmm. If these conservatives are adamant about bringing down deficits, that could wipe out their savings if they're not going to pay for it. I think the expanded child tax credit was something like $100 billion a year as a cost. So, I mean, there's a lot of problems there now, and whether the place will be civil enough by December to come up with a bipartisan deal like that, I don't know. Yes, they could stick that into some kind of omnibus package at the end of the year if the deal is there in time. I'm not sure I'm too optimistic at the moment, but that's, I guess, something to watch for.
Mm-hmm.